Hello, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. Just finished this game. Uh, I played it all the way to quite a bit of accuracy. I played a really accurate game. Went 19 moves, and let's take a look how the game went. Ended in resignation, and I'm probably gonna play from resignation to checkmate, as I like to do, to see, okay, what kind of game was this when played checkmate. It's a way to anchor these awesome accuracy ratings that chess.com provides when their engine analyzes a game of chess. And so, yeah, getting back to it, whoops, wrong way. Getting back to it, 94.5. I'm very happy and proud that I was able to play the game as accurate as that. And 73.7 is not great, but it's nothing to hang our heads about. This is a chess player who defeated me, I think, 2, maybe 3 games prior to when I eventually won a game. So, a strong player, just not quite as strong in this particular game, I suppose. I don't really know that, but I was really glad with my numbers. I'm nervous today, guys. I hope you can tell. Okay, so here I had the white pieces. Queen's pawn opening, Queen's gambit accepted, and to just book moves here. White's gonna be glad at the end of book here with knight f6. White can push the pawn, sure, but I'm ready to snatch up the pawn on c4 right away, even material, and I think, actually, tell you the truth, White's doing well. Materials even, and classic pawn duo already established versus only one pawn that could even think of being as a pawn duo. Okay, well, maybe the pawn at f6 through some strange avenue like f6 e5. Let's take this knight away, f6 e5, and then f takes e5. Then he's in the center. But that's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about here in sort of more practical chess reality, a classic central pawn duo on d4 and e4 for white, and black does not have nearly as strong control over the center. To say white's leading in development, so white has made good on his initial first move advantage. With black to move, great move. Bishop b4 here, trying to slow things down. I understand that maybe computer doesn't view this as the very best move from a human standpoint, though. Bishop to b4 is pinning the knight at c3. He's going to slow things down while providing threats of his own. Knight takes e4 could mess up white's plans right away. I chose bishop g5, but before I get to that, knight takes f4, or my option from white's perspective here, bishop g5 is definitely one to consider, that, and I'm glad to have played it. But f3 doesn't look all that bad. The e1 to h4 diagonal is open, but it's gonna be whoops and then whoops a number of moves before black can take advantage of that. The bishop that could be strong on this diagonal is on the other side of the board, right? So we want to know things like don't touch your f-pawn, but we also want to know them in terms of the reality of a particular position. So that diagonal being sort of not as bad as it could be, I'm actually more worried about f3. As for a subsequent knight at g to e2, kingside castles, and then checks along this larger g1 to a7 diagonal. That's more scary, like queen d4 check or bishop c5. That's why I didn't play pawn to f3. I think it's probably a strong move anyway. And I like the pin. Alright, you gotta slow down my knight on the king side. I'm gonna slow down your knight on the queen, well, no, on the queen side. Queen side, then king side. How about that? Black captured on c3. I think this was not the best move. I think maybe just in terms, mostly in terms of having control over the initiative. One of the five forces of chess espoused by Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan. Having control over the initiative, this gives it away. Bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, and now we're just at a similar position to 4 tempi ago, 2 moves ago, except white is doing even better. There's a pin on a knight at f6, that's strong. Central pawn duo we talked about. The c pawn is contributing towards things. e5 is a threat, and there are moves like queen to b3, making a battery out of the queen and bishop, while also requiring some sort of attention to b7, either by babysitting from this bishop or taking a turn out to play bishop to b6, or sorry, pawn to b6. Excuse me, pawn to b6. So white's doing well here, despite material equity or equality. I think really. If I'm lucky, maybe it'll be both. Well, equity would be more luck. But anyway, material equality, black's turn to move. H6 makes sense. You try to tell the bishop what's going on, or rather, make the bishop tell what's going on. It's called putting the question to the bishop. He can't sit there. If he moves back to h5, then okay, the pin's broken by g5, even if he skates away to g3 unharmed. He might capture the knight on f6, this bishop, but he's got to do something. He can't just sit there. He'll be captured by the h-pawn. So they call it putting the question to the bishop. Bishop takes f6, queen takes f6. This sort of developing move, knight f3. I think that the torch 4 might want pawn to e5 first. And second thought, maybe that's the way to go. But let's not put words in torch 4's mouth. Yes, okay, yes, indeed, torch 4 is calling for pawn to e5 before developing the bishop to f3. I think mostly this is more flexible. Pawn to e5 is coming in either line, but as here it's played first and then the queen reacts, then white may choose knight to e2 or knight to f3. The most logical ways that white might develop his kingside knight. So pawn to e5 might have been a little bit more flexible for white. Some developing moves, and then pawn to e5 anyway. So it's not all so bad. Queen g6, kingside castles. White's doing well. It's just ahead of black in a number of ways. White's development, some consider this complete, with castles and minor pieces. Others would say it's not complete until the queen is moved off her starting square. Okay, well, anyway, in this position, let's say that it's almost complete. But there's this almost complete development, whereas black has to castle still, his bishop has to move, and is not really all that influential right away. So there's that, and then we can't just turn our heads and pretend it doesn't exist, my friends. c3, d4, e5. This pawn chain stemming from the queen side all the way across, well, pretty much to the center board. This is strong. This is a strong in command of another of Yasser Seirawan's forces of chess. Space. White is handling space very, very well here. So if your opponent has the center, as b6 indicates, or is in line with, attack on the sides. Except with b6, yeah, so that would be the general principle. The problem is the king's still in the center and pawn to b6. The pin after bishop b5 is pretty darn strong. We see the following tactics. White plays accurately and finds a way to win enough material to have more than just the advantage. This is a winning position. As the as white is up before queen now. I think my opponent resigns. Let's. You know what I want to say about this game. I also want to say if my opponent were listening. B6. This is chess. This happens. B6 is a move. These kind of moves happen. And it took many moves to show that white actually ended up the better as a result of B6. So I don't mean to. That's just. Don't mean to put words in my opponent's mouth, but that's part of chess or whatever. Or not whatever. That's part of chess. Okay. Whew. Now finish this out against computer, and then maybe make the end of viewing the World Cup soccer match. That's probably about halfway through the second half right now. So white to move. My thoughts here were rook a d1 check or rook e d1 check, and I think rook e d1 check is might be slightly better. White's just gonna roll through here. So right now I'm looking for different types of wins. Queen c7 check puts the king on f8, but doesn't seem to have an immediate follow-up. So we're gonna go for the old grind here, and with rook to d7, just continue to grind material. White will do well to make back rank checkmate threats a non-issue, and just pick off pawns here and there. And sometimes you offer like a simplifying situation where the board simplifies, but in a way that is still good for you who are simplifying. Mostly checking for escape squares so they don't stalemate black's king. He'll have available f4, f3, and e2. So I'll make a queen. And soon enough, the queen ends. Checkmate. Okay, wow. what a great game. Both chess as a whole, but also this game in particular. I'm feeling good, my friends. Okay, so I gotta go. This will probably be my last podcast of today, but I'll be back tomorrow afternoon with more great chess. So, uh, uh, thank you, viewers, for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.